Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome for another episode of the Author Spotlight. Hey, it's your host with the most, your main man, Darren M. Palmer. So excited to be with you, where I get the honor and the privilege to interview those best-selling authors from around the globe and go behind the scenes. Today, we have on my main man, Mr. Carl Sharperson. Carl, say hello to the people if you don't mind, sir.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be here.
Awesome, awesome. We excited to have you. Now, those who familiar with the show, you know how we do it. I just want to just start off first with, if you don't mind, share with the audience. They're gonna have your information in the show notes, but share with them the name of your book and why did you write this as your first book?
Okay. It's called Sharp Leadership, Overcome Adversity to Lead with Authenticity. And it talks about my life. And I just wanted to put on paper my life. The way I've always lived my life is I would go through things, things would happen. I'd always say, what did I learn from it? What am I going to do about it? So the book is basically my life from 0 to 65, kind of some things that I've done, some experiences that I've had. And I've had the opportunity to have a lot of different experiences in a lot of different arenas.
You know what? Getting right into that, I want to hear this because I know some who are listening thinking to themselves, it's one thing to have an idea to do a book, and it's one thing to be experienced. Because I know, you like I know, Carl. We know some people who are amazing at what they do, but some don't even pass that threshold of being an author. So if you don't mind, share with us what allowed for you to go from I'm thinking about doing the book, as we say in Texas and whatnot. I'm thinking of doing. That's not proper English. Don't y'all put that in your book. But at the same time, how did you go from there to actually overcoming that hurdle? Because you have a busy life. I mean, you have a productive life, so to speak. So I mean, if those who will look at your resume and see all the things that you've been able to accomplish, it's not like you sitting on the couch eating hot Cheetos and watching reruns of Maury Povich and talking about you are not the father. You're not dealing with that. So how are you with that busy schedule able to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and make this leap and make it a priority to get this book done?
Well, I'd gone through some training of marketing and speaking and things like that. And one of the things they always said was, if you have a book, it gives you more credibility. So I knew that going in, but it was kind of intimidating to really sit down and do it, to get it to flow, to get it to be grammatically correct and things like that. So that was a big hurdle for me. And I had documented some things over some of the things that I've gone through, like when I was diagnosed with cancer. I did some journaling there. I did some other journaling of some other things that were going on. So, but it was in different pieces, different places. So my daughter actually called me, and she's 30 years old. So at the time, she's probably 27. And she called me, she said, Dad, are you serious about writing your book? I said, well, she says, if you're committed to writing your book, she says, I found somebody that can help you, and I'll connect you with them. So with that, it took away all the fear, it took away all the excuses. So I just started doing it. And the way it worked was, the person I was working with said, just write the titles of a chapter that you think you might want to do, or a time in your life that you might want to highlight. So that's basically what I did. I thought about my life, and I said, okay, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about this. And then I just started writing about it. And once I started, it was almost like, I've never birthed a child, but I think it would be kind of like that, because once I started, then I had to get it out.
And when you bring that up, Carl, it's important for those who listen, and that's whether it's male or female, no matter your gender. The thing is, just when you hear it's a labor of love also, because like you said, there's no turning back once you get started. And I think that's important what Carl shared with us too, just to be able to extract as well and have a dual approach. How we look at what he just shared is understanding that commitment by accountability. So when you're accountable, it's one thing if I'm like Carl Daughter brought up, hey, Dad, if you're serious about it, if you really to make it a priority, I got someone to connect you with. But by Carl making the commitment and saying I'm going to reach out, he went from I'm fixing or I'm finna do it. That's not proper English now. Don't y'all throw no rotten green tomatoes at me, whatnot. But you go from I'm trying, I'm gonna do it one day. I know it's in there somewhere, Darren. I'm gonna do it. No, no. When you get that accountability and you got someone who's holding you responsible for what you said that you were going to do, and if you're a person of integrity, it deals with yourself, it deals with your identity. So when it deals with your identity, you typically rise to the level of your identity. And believe it or not, we will do things sometimes for others that we won't do for ourselves. So that's the point of accountability. That's why you see programs, whether it's a Weight Watchers or whether it's training for athletes, typically your bench will go up higher for those young men or whatnot who are playing football, dealing with sports, when they are in there in the weight room with their peers compared to if they're not in there, because of the synergy that happens when you're part of a team. And speaking of that, I want to dig a little bit into your amazing career that you've been able to have, Carl. I mean, you don't. When we talk about leadership, brother, I mean, you've been able to do it on the corporate arena and your personal business. You just so many things. I just want to know if you could give us two or three things, Carl, that you feel like are principles or things that you live by, um, that allow for you to be able to have, what are those transferable skills that you think that those who are listening could implement, that you utilize, whether you was with one company to another company, or if you was in one state to another state, or when you found yourself being only male or a person of your color, or whatever that is, you've been able to do a great job no matter where you were geographically located, or the environment or the decade you were in. You've been able to continue to reinvent yourself. So can you give us three or four principles or strategies that you use to be able to transfer so well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've been able to, like you said, be able to utilize these principles in athletics. I played Division I football, corporate America, 3 Fortune 500 companies, nonprofits, consulted probably 60 different companies, in church, faith-based organizations, family. So all those arenas are principles that work. And the number one principle is I call it a quitters and winners never quit. And my high school coach is the one that kind of brought me up to that. I went out for football for the first time in the 9th grade, never played tackle football before. I was 5'6", 100 pounds, never played tackle football. Coach gave a talk I'll never forget. He said, you got your pass today. If you don't want to play, turn them in. No harm, no foul. But if you come back the next day, I need you to stay till the end of the season, because quitters never win and winners never quit. He said, if you quit my football team, you might quit school. Quit school, get married, you might quit your spouse. Have kids, quit your kids. Because once you quit the first time, then it's easy to quit the next time. So I developed a mindset at a very young age that I was never going to quit. Okay. Fast forward my senior year, I'm the most valuable player of the team. Right. That never would have happened if I had quit. Right. I go to the Naval Academy. I'm taking chemistry for the first, chemistry in college. Right. Went to a prep school before. And I can remember after 2 weeks, it was clear that the instructor was teaching or speaking French, and I only understood English. So it wasn't making a whole lot of sense. I can remember going home to my room, crying myself to sleep, saying, Lord, what am I going to do? I said, one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to quit. So I went to the instructor and told him I was struggling. He gave me about an hour of extra instruction. I went back and I committed myself to spending whatever time I needed in chemistry. I spent more time in chemistry than all my other subjects put together. I made a B in chemistry first semester and a B in chemistry second semester. That never would have happened if I had quit. So the first principle is quitters never win and winners never quit. The second principle is always tell the truth. At the Naval Academy, one of the things you learn is you always want to tell the truth, because if you don't, in the military, people can die, people can get hurt. So I was a pilot in the Marine Corps. So if my crew chief checks out my flight aircraft and determines that the oil level is low and doesn't put in oil, but checks it off saying it is, I could potentially crash and die, right? So you say, okay, Carl, what's that got to do with the civilian world? I spend the first probably 6 months of any organization that I take over trying to let people know that I will do what I say I'm going to do, developing credibility. So truth and telling the truth is so critical. So that's number 2. The third one is always take care of your people. Always take care of your people. In the Marine Corps, the higher the rank, the later you eat, if you go out to the field to eat, right? And that symbolizes always take care of your people, no matter what's going on. You give them the bullets so that if you take care of them, they will take care of you. You say, Carl, okay, how does that work in the civilian world? I'm glad you asked. Okay, let's say I'm a supervisor. We're making widgets. And I'm a terrible boss. I'm a tyrant. I yell, scream at my people, treat them like dirt, right? And I give a direct order to the quality person. And I say, do this. The quality person knows that if they do that, some bad quality is going to go out. And when it comes back, they're going to say, Carl told me to do it, because they don't want me around. Same scenario. I'm a good boss. I love my people. I take care of them, right? I give the same direct order. I probably do it a little nicer, but it's the same order. That person will do one of two things. They'll say, Carl, you probably don't want to do that because of X, Y, and Z. Or even if it comes back, it'll be our problem and not just my problem. Okay? So always, the fourth one is, it's all about relationships. It's nobody gets to where they are by themselves, right? So when I was diagnosed with cancer, I was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma 11 years ago. Not only was I sick, I was broke, sick and broke, right? So once you get to a point where you realize you're not smart enough, you're not strong enough, you don't have enough money in the bank, right? Then you call on your higher power in a way that you've never had, right? So what I did was I humbled myself and I said, okay, what am I going to do? So I contacted the president of my alumni association at the Naval Academy, a guy named Kevin. Kevin contacted a company mate of mine named Keith. Keith put together a GoFundMe program before GoFundMe was in existence. My classmates and alumni actually supported me for an entire year, some of which I hadn't seen in over 30 years. But that's how important relationships are. It's all about relationships. And the last principle is priorities. My priorities are faith, family, and friends. You know, so when I was going through that dark time, going through chemo, those became the priorities, right? And faith, family, and friends. And if you have faith, if you have family and friends, that's the richest resource that you have that you can tap into. Because if you have that intact, you can recreate money. But if you got bad relationships, you know, you're just going to be out there by yourself. So those are my principles, my friend.
I mean, that's so good. That's like Campbell's soup, man. That's good, man. I'm telling you, Carl, when I look at what you're sharing here with us, and I'm looking at the notes that you had. I mean, I totally agree. You know, when you look at those I like to say seasoned coaches back in the day or whatnot, and the information that they share with you, and how it's can be implemented in our daily lives or whatnot right now. I don't think that point that you brought up of the quitting, I'm just giving my testimony somewhat of it as well. I've watched that, and I know you have too, that basically the kids that was quitting in the sports or couldn't, or if they had a problem with authority in sports, typically it resulted with them having issues with the classroom. And unfortunately, it had issues with the local authorities after they wasn't in school anymore, or when they did. And then certain areas you go back, you can even see the ripple effect for some of them who didn't pick up on it, where even with their kids are now just like they were in the principal's office. And you seeing this cycle repeat itself or whatnot. And so, you think that, like what Carl is sharing with us, like, what does that have to do? It has to do with everything. If you don't understand these transferable skills, and you don't understand that your attitude determines your altitude, that is not just a cliche. That's just not a saying. You can think someone is profiling you. You can think someone is being prejudiced towards you, or whatever the situation is, but you never have checked to look at that. It could be that attitude of yours. That, not saying that the other areas don't exist, but sometimes it's not that people hating on us. It's the things which Carl is bringing up. You're quitting before you get a chance to see if you can make the B in chemistry. You're quitting before you even get a chance to be the MVP. So, if Michael Jordan would have quit, if Carl would have quit, they wouldn't have had the accolades and be able to help and pour into us the way that they are now. Carl, I didn't mean to cut you off. What did you want to add to it?
Now, what I was going to say was, so those, during that time period when I was growing up, so I moved from Washington, D.C., Chocolate City, to integrating a school in Virginia. Okay. So I was in an environment that people didn't want me to be there. Okay. And I couldn't just jump up and say, I don't want to be there. I had to figure out how to deal with it. Right. So I developed a mindset of, it's not what you call me, it's what I answer to that's important. Right. So mental toughness became huge. And I saw people go from calling me names to being my friend because we got to know each other. So I know that if somebody comes at me the wrong way, it could be anybody, I don't have the problem. They have the problem, right? And I know that everybody, no matter what color they are, no matter what race they are, no matter what culture they're from, religion or whatever, everybody wants the same thing. They want to be loved, they want to be respected, and they want to be successful. Those are the three things that everybody wants. That's why people join gangs. They want to be loved. They want a family, right? And if you don't provide that family in the home or in the school or someplace else, they're going to get it somewhere, looking for love in all the wrong places.
Woo! I ain't gonna shut you down while you're preaching good over there, Carl, but I'm telling you, boy, I almost passed the offering plate around. Well, you about to get on Givelify. You about to start something here, Carl. But when I look at this, situation, that is so true. You find that those areas that people are looking, love, respect, and to be able to understand that, hey, if I can provide that, if I can create an environment, what you brought up earlier with the relationships, creating that dialogue where someone knowing where they are and able to respect them, and knowing that if it's a problem, that's their problem. I like to say just vibrating over it, being able to have the type of understanding that your dominion, your power is you are the master of your circumstances. Now, don't miss that.
Yep.
You are the master of your circumstances. So you don't have to allow your circumstances to be your guide and determine how you feel, what you're doing. You're waking up, your text message or the email and threw you off for the rest of your day. Or one person pull out in front of you, now your day is destroyed. You have control over that. It's just all about how you choose to use that energy. When I look at what you've been able to accomplish, and that's definitely a culture shock, coming from Chocolate City, going straight to Virginia, especially at that time, it's still a culture shock somewhat even today. So I can imagine during that time for you being able to, cross over that line or whatnot and be in Virginia and what you had to face. But Carl, I want to ask you this. You got the book done, after your daughter reached out, you did the work, you didn't know, but you went all in like you always do. Share with us what was your response knowing that you actually did it when you held that book in your hand, and also can you share with us the response or the thoughts from your daughter and others who were close to you and others who have been able to read the book? Can you share some of that experience with us with the success of you having the book done?
Yeah, it's a powerful experience. It's an opportunity. So my book's about me, right? So now I have something to leave my kids, my grandkids, and whoever. But the most rewarding thing about it is having people come up to me and say, this really blessed me. I can use tools. I mean, I've had people come crying to me saying, this changed my life. I use this book. I'm going to start a business, And the other thing about it, which is the timing of it, Darren, when you think about it, for such a time as this book, when you read it, it opens up the minds of people on both sides. And once the minds get open, then you can have dialogue and reach some solutions and conclusions to stuff, right? So it's so powerful that I can do this. People can read the book, right? I can have a workshop. I can have a 1 hour workshop, 4 hour workshop, 1 day workshop, weekend workshop, just because it's so rich and it touches people in all different places. And I call it book number 67, right? Now, I'm not trying to compete with the first 66 in the Bible, but this is number 67. So once you feel comfortable with those 66, you read this and it'll bless you.
Come on now, we can't give them all the game on one episode, Carl. You're going in on them. You're going in deep on them, Carl. They ain't ready for that on book number 67. Come on now. Hey, I love that. I love that. When you understand this, please pick up on what Carl is sharing. Make sure that you get a copy of this of his book. We're going to have the information in our show notes. Carl also will be able to tell you too here shortly where you can receive it and how you be able to communicate and connect and follow. But also, like Carl shared, for those who listen, you know who you are out there who own your business, or you want training, or you want to give different perspective, whether you over a HR department, a managerial team, whatever it is, the principles and the skills, the skill set that Carl is able to share with your people, whatnot, for is changing that paradigm, shifting that paradigm, changing their mindset, having it renewed would definitely add to your bottom line. Also create camaraderie and the type of culture that you want, and also the ripple, the effect, the ripple effect will be felt by your customers or whatnot. Those who are consuming your products or your services because of the holistic approach that Carl brings to the table. So, Carl, if you don't mind, could you share with them how can they follow you? Whether social media handles, website information, they want to book you to speak or whatnot. How can they connect with you?
The easiest way is to go to my website. It's www.carlsharpersonjr.com. That's CarlSharpersonJR.com. And that's got my website. It's got information. You can fill it out. You can connect with me, ask me questions or whatever. And you can get my book through the website, and I'll sign it. But you can get it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And get it also. So the website has, if you want to book me for speaking, workshops, any combination of how I can help you. And I'd love to have you reach out to me.
We'll definitely make sure that we have all that information in the show notes for those who are looking. Because like I said, I don't want anybody to have to repent, after they watch this episode because we didn't have it or whatnot, because they done said a few choice words. So we're going to do our part or whatnot and not lie to the people, tell the truth, always tell the truth, and follow one of the principles that Carl shared with us too as well. But Carl, I want you to speak before we get out of here, man. I want you to speak to that person who's going through a tough time and they're looking at all the things that you've been able to accomplish. You know how it is with some people, Carl, they weren't there when you were sick and you was broke. They don't know, the mental fortitude that it took to be able to look from where you are to where you were going or whatnot, and to get around the corner or whatnot for your life to be where it is today. So can you share with that person who might be furloughed, might be seasoned and thinking, okay, I've worked this job for so long. I really don't want to go into a new industry or a new world. Or someone who's thinking to themselves, I don't know how I'm going to do this with me and my kids in this time frame that we're in, or those who even manage and they might even have employment or whatnot, but they're like, how do I motivate this new team, or how do I motivate these millennials or whatnot that I'm dealing with? They ain't tough like we used to be. I could say something to somebody and they'd be all right. Now I got to go to HR dealing with them because they're crying. So if whatever the situation is for the person who's here, who's listening, who's going through a trying time, can you give them some words of encouragement, man? If they say, I got a book in me, I want to write, but what I'm going through, whatnot, I don't know if I'm the person that I need to be to write the book. So can you share with them why their story is important too as well?
Yeah, a couple of things. One I want to start with is the other valuable thing that I really learned as I talk about the principles in the book and people read the book is people like authenticity. Everybody has a story. Everybody. Now you think about the pandemic now, okay? So I work with some homeless veterans. These homeless veterans at some point in time were on the top of their game. All of them, right? They went through boot camp, but something happened, right? So when you think about the pandemic, there are a lot of people that a year ago, they had money, they had a house, they had loved ones, and all that stuff is gone, right? I call it a significant emotional event on steroids. A significant emotional event is a thing that'll rock your world. We're talking job loss, loss of a loved one, loss of hope, loss of money, death of a loved one. But the pandemic is a significant emotional event on steroids. So what I tell people is the pandemic has been a crisis, okay? So the key is, how do you find opportunity in a crisis? If you're in this crisis and you happen to have the skills of being able to sew, you pivot into making masks, you making money, right? So it's three things about what to do when you're in a crisis. And I learned this in the military and other places. Number one, you got to get your mind right. You got to get your mind right. So you got to put good stuff, positive stuff, read the Bible, read motivational talks, or what, you got to get your mind right. That's the first thing. The second thing is you got to get a routine. With this pandemic, it messed up everybody's routine. Anybody that has a baby knows that a baby likes routine. Baby wants to know what time they eat, what time they're going to go to bed. And if that baby doesn't know that, you're going to have a cranky baby. So now you got cranky adults, you got cranky CEOs, you got cranky mothers and fathers, okay? So developing a routine, a consistent routine is important. And then the last thing is understanding where you want to go and develop a strategy, okay? You develop the strategy, you take those strategies, you develop a key strategy, put together a game plan, action plan, step by step to get to where you want to go. And that's pretty much what I do. I help individuals, I help organizations do that. But and it's interesting because in the Asian culture, the word crisis means opportunity. Now, if you think about any place you've been, you can go to the hood of the hood. There's always a Chinese restaurant, right? Because they know that if there's nothing there, if there's a desert, a food desert, that's opportunity, you know? So having that mindset and just being able to do that, as well as I believe in three things: read the Bible, pray, and meet with a body of believers to lift you up.
So your network is your net worth. So that's the key to it. And it's not just monetary means as well. It's every facet of your life, whether it's family, finances, you know, fitness, the whole nine. If you typically around others who understand the importance of those areas that you want to grow and that you want to scale and expand in, then typically you're going to do it the same way too as well. So just definitely keep that in mind. Man, this has been an amazing episode. I know somebody out there was helped. I know you was blessed by this episode. This is why we had to have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Carl Sharperson, be on today. Sir, I just want to tell you, I thank you so much. You're a blessing. And we're grateful for being able to have you come on today. So thank you for taking time out your schedule.
Well, I really appreciate being on here. And the book has I mean, it talks about how do you deal with a bad boss? How do you deal with losing a job? How do you deal with being called names? I've had a 10-year-old read it, 99-year-old great-great-grandmother read it. I had a 90-year-old Naval Academy graduate purchase 10 books, 4 for his sons, 6 for his grandsons. Had a pastor use it as a Bible study. So if you get it, you read it, please reach out to me and it'll bless you and a bunch of others. And I'd love to be in touch with you.
Oh, definitely. Well, we'll make sure we have all that information in the show notes. But we want to thank once again Mr. Carl Sharperson for being on. And for those who tuned in today, remember, if you won't change, be the change. Until next time, be blessed and be great. And remember that this is the year for your new book. We'll see y'all next time.